Hello and welcome to this Epic Universe construction update. There's been a lot going on regarding Epic Universe this week, with Universal unveiling new details about many aspects of Epic Universe, including new concept art and in-depth details about Celestial Park.
Really?
There's also been a lot of progress on the construction side of things, so today we are going to get into all of the construction updates regarding Epic Universe. Now, if you're unaware, Epic Universe is a brand new theme park coming to Universal Studios Florida and is set to open in 2025. Epic Universe is located just 2 miles south of Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. This new park will include brand new lands themed to How to Train Your Dragon, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Universal Monsters, and of course, my personal favorite, Super Nintendo World. But if you want to see all of the things that Universal announced about Epic Universe this past week, you can check out that video after you watch this one, of course, and I will put a link to that video right here. So let's start our Epic Universe construction update by heading over into the Dark Universe. Now, a few updates ago, we noted that there was land that had been cleared behind the Burning Blade Tavern, and now it seems this is some sort of back of house service building area that is being constructed. On the front side of the Burning Blade Tavern, we can see there is some solid progress happening here, and if you zoom in, it looks like the mechanism for rotating the windmill blades has been installed. We can also see at the right there is now roofing over the outdoor seating area, and more painting has happened on the wall and walkway features. Now, over at the featured attraction in the Dark Universe, the Dark Manor, we can see some exterior features have been added for side towers. The purple is exterior type board that will be themed to look like the rest of the manor. We can also see on the entrance area of the manor where some of the wall elements have been painted. At the far left is a quick service / pickup service restaurant that is progressing nicely update after update. Over in the extended queue area of the Dark Manor, we can see some recently added trees, and scaffolding is up for theming around what is likely a crypt in this area. And in this other angle, we can also see at the arrow where there are stones that will be lined up on the edges as theming along the top of the queue perimeter wall, which is consistent with the theming we can see on the front of the manor. At the entry ramp of the Dark Manor, we can also see at 1, peaks being added at the entrance gateway. At 2, there's a slope, so there could possibly be some water here in this area, but we will have to wait and see, of course. And 3, there are some unknown theming elements being made. We can also see a little higher up more of the theming on the walls of the walkway into the manor here. And over at the Dark Universe entrance portal, we can see work is still going on, especially on the backside. Also, if you look at the top of the picture, you'll see another one of those octagonal structures we've seen throughout the park. Now, multiple viewers commented that these are going to be informational kiosks where guests can go to talk to team members and get help with tickets and other various things throughout their park visit. Now, I couldn't find anything that confirms this, but this does make sense, so I would lean toward this probably being right, as many times the chat knows best. On the front side of the entrance portal, we can see to the left at the arrow where construction of the exit gate to the land is taking place. And looking at the village in the Dark Universe, we can see at 1, gravestones for a cemetery at the land's entrance, and 2 are more recently planted trees. And in another view looking across the village and the land, we can see at 1, the gateway to the featured attraction. At 2 is the stone wall theming at the village. At 3, we have a recently added roof peak. At 5, we have the broken stone wall entry of the village, and 6 is the exit gate of the land. Now, over at the Curse of the Werewolf roller coaster, we can see at the arrow some columns that have been recently added. We can also see the queue and service walkways are starting to emerge, and more than likely we will see concrete pours in the coming weeks in the queue area as well. Well, that's it for the progress over in the Dark Universe, but let's jump over to the recently officially confirmed the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Ministry of Magic land. Now, for the last few months, we have seen the Wizarding World has been mostly under heavy scaffolding, but we can now see a lot of the scaffolding has come down, and we are able to get some great glimpses into the buildings and how they will look. Now, for those that don't know, this land is going to be based on the Fantastic Beasts movies that take place in the 1920s Paris. So this land is a replica of that era of Paris, essentially. Now, they did say officially when they announced this land that this would be a mix between that era of the Wizarding World, but combining it with the Ministry of Magic that is from the Harry Potter book series. Now, I'm not going to act like I'm a Harry Potter expert. I am genuinely curious how they're going to merge these two together, as those are different timelines, but We will see. Either way, I'm very excited for this land. But if you do know maybe what they'll do with this, or if there's something that's in the books that this points to, please comment below and let us know. Over at the entrance portal to the Wizarding World, we can see some concrete forms are lined up in a semicircle here. And at the arrow, we can see columns that have been placed recently at the exit from the land. We can also see to the left a tree and one of those circular concrete bases. Now, we had talked a few videos ago that these were probably what those were for, and it seems that is the case. Looking just past the entrance portal, we can see the progress on the copy of the
Here we go again.
Pour Saint Denis.
That's not bad. Not bad.
And at the right, there is the start of a mural, which is likely an ad that is themed to the time period that this land is based on. Now, there's really not much else to check out construction-wise over here in the Wizarding World, so let's jump over to the How to Train Your Dragon Land, Isle of Berk, which was officially confirmed by Universal this week, to check out the progress over here in this land. Now, over at the second launch of the How to Train Your Dragon roller coaster, we can see more rock work has been completed for this area, and the kids play area that will be located here at the top of the image. And here in this angle, we can get a better look at the rockwork theming and the kids play area progress. We can also see a covered ride train on the tracks itself, which probably means either ride testing is currently going on or is going to go on very soon. Taking a look at the portal of the How to Train Your Dragon Land, we can compare it to the concept art that was released earlier this week and see how that's shaping up. At the portal, there is some cleared land that has been recently completed, and not sure as to what this is for, but I'm sure in the next few weeks we'll see what pops up over here. And looking a little closer at the portal, we can see that rock work is still ongoing, and it seems that rock painting may have already begun over here. We can see some trees that have been recently placed in this area, and having seen the latest concept art, we know that many more trees will be all over this park in the coming months, as they confirmed with the concept art that there is going to be lots of greenery and lots of trees all over this park. Now, the boardwalk in the bay is looking just about completed, and we can see that the bay is just about bone dry as they finish up theming on some of the elements in this area. Now, it's been a bit since we checked in on the pair of tall statues in the bay that will greet guests as they enter the land, but they look like they're ready to go and all themed up still. It's also been a couple of updates since we've taken a look over at the theater in the land. Now, we can see lots of steel framing is currently in progress for the marquee and other areas of this building. Now, this show is likely to be very similar, if not a copycat, of the Universal Beijing's How to Train Your Dragon show called Untrainable. And in this clip, we get a glimpse of perhaps a few of the show elements that could be part of this show. And here is the current progress at the Spitfire Grill and the boat ride in the land. And taking a closer look at Spitfire Grill, we can see that the rockwork lettering on the building is visible and exterior work is well underway. We can also see where the Viking-looking structures are in the center of the photo is likely where there will be outdoor seating for Spitfire Grill, and in this angle we can see that it will also be overlooking part of the bay and the boat ride in the land. Speaking of the boat ride in the land, it is likely going to be called Fire Drill, and here we can see the current progress on it. At the entrance of the boat ride, it looks like platforms for dragons are at the left, and when guests enter this queue, they will go down a ramp that winds its way to the loading and unloading station below. Now, over at Mead Hall, we can see the scaffolding is rising higher and higher for the sculpting and painting of the mountain peak on the building. Now, shout out to JetRo6503 for pointing out that this peak here is the main mountain of Berk from the How to Train Your Dragon movies. And many of you have suggested that we watch this movie, and we do plan to watch the How to Train Your Dragon movies in anticipation for the opening of Epic Universe. But lately, watching that has been bumped for Trolls and Bluey.
Ah, biscuits.
So we'll get to it eventually. Now, it looks like our pair of Vikings that we spotted over here at the entrance to Mead Hall are now under scaffolding, so we will see how they end up developing in the coming weeks. And this is a good view of the dragon wing styled safety nets on the How to Train Your Dragon coaster that have been installed recently. And here's a great view of the current construction status on the How to Train Your Dragon coaster. And over here at the coaster is a good view of where the queue for the coaster is going to be. And over in the unloading and loading station of the How to Train Your Dragon roller coaster, we can see some recent Viking theming elements have popped up over here. And looking in close down here near some of the aspects of the coaster, we can see some safety fencing that is in progress in many areas around the coaster. And this is a cool look on the How to Train Your Dragon coaster at the tracks after the second launch, and they're passing behind the spinning dragon ride over here. And speaking of the spinning dragon ride, there is some excavation going on between the two concrete pours here. Now, we don't know what this is specifically for, but I'm sure it's some sort of theming element or it could be something to do with the queue. Now, some might be surprised at how close some of the different rides and lands are going to be in relation to each other in Epic Universe. And here we can see how the How to Train Your Dragon coaster will run right next to Starfall Racers that is in Celestial Park. Now that's it for everything over here at the How to Train Your Dragon land, but let's head over to the Super Nintendo world and check out the progress over here. Now looking into the Mushroom Kingdom and seeing Mount Beanpole and Yoshi's Adventure, I really can't describe how much I'm loving how this is starting to look. We can also get, it literally looks like you just walked right into the video game, and I love it. We can also see here at 1, the flag that has recently been raised. At 2, there are spots recently added to the roof peak. And at 3, there are walls being themed very similar to Mount Beanpole. Now, in another angle of Mount Beanpole, we can see what I think is the first question box to appear in the land. And looking at Yoshi's Adventure, we can also see on the left side where 3 clouds have been installed near the top of Mount Beanpole as well. We can also see the ride cars for Yoshi's Adventure have test dummies in them, and we can also see the temporary fencing is still up, so we know that ride testing is still ongoing here. The Bowser's Fortress and Mario Kart entrance are also under heavy scaffolding now, as exterior work on most of this land is well underway. Now, since our last update, Peach's Castle hasn't made a ton of progress on its exterior theming, but we do see theming just like Mount Beanpole to the left that is happening. Now, Universal revealed the entrance portals to all of the lands this past week, but one thing that's unique about the Super Nintendo World entrance portal is that guests will go up an escalator that takes them into Peach's Castle, and then you will enter the land through there. And in this shot, we can see the upward slope that guests will take on that escalator. Unlike the other lands in Epic Universe, this is a multi-storied land, so you're going to go down and up a lot in this land. Now, jumping over into Donkey Kong Country, the broken wall theming over at Minecart Madness is really coming along and looks just about ready for its gold paint. There are details popping out now like flowers and the vines that look like they're in process of being completed to give it an aged and overgrown look. Near the splashdown part of Minecart Madness, there are some center theming elements that are currently being worked on. Now this is likely some rubble elements from the temple if I were to guess. And in this glimpse of some of the outdoor sections of Minecart Madness, we can see at 1, the base of the waterfall, and at 2 is a splash pond area. Now at this high level look, we can see a lot of elements that are part of the outdoor coaster part. At 1, we have theming elements of a Donkey Kong related character face. At 2 is framing for the giant Donkey Kong related face that will look like this once completed. At 3, we have track that travels past that face. On 4, we have the lift hill, and at 5, we have foundations for a large theming element. Now, taking a little peek over the top and inside of Minecart Madness, we can see at 1, there are chips ready for the first layer of concrete. At 2 is the lower platform that might later have some sort of show element right there. At 3 are coverings over the track, so there is no overnight ride testing happening currently. And in this view, we can really see the whole area is really starting to come together as the theming elements move closer to completion. Personally, I'm really excited as we're starting to see some of those little touches like the question boxes and the clouds pop up. And as exterior theming is continuing to go on, we're going to see more and more of these elements popping up, which I'm absolutely loving. All right, that's it for Super Nintendo World. So let's jump over into Celestial Park to check out the progress over here. And we'll do some comparisons in this area as we have a lot of concept art that Universal released this past week along with the announcements, and we can compare how things are progressing to the concept art that was released. Now, in terms of construction progress, there isn't a lot to report on when it comes to Starfall Racers. Now, we can see that work is still ongoing on the roof of the main station, and it seems that there is now a white material being rolled seemingly over the top of the green lining that has been there for a few weeks now. We can also see the progress on the front theming element of the coaster is making some good progress, with lots of rock work progress being made. We also know from the details that Universal released that this will indeed be a comet, and here we can get a glimpse of what that will look like when it is finished. So one cool aspect about this ride that Universal announced this past week is that there is going to be no external lighting on the ride itself, but the ride trains are going to be illuminated, which is going to give the illusion of comets shooting around this track. So I won't be riding this ride as I'm not a roller coaster person, but I will enjoy watching this ride from afar. Now this is a cool view of how guests will be dispatched and descend into the first launch under the station. They circle the rockwork in the descent part, and then when the trains return to the front, they circle left to right up to the second launch. Now near the entrance to Starfall Racers, we can see the progress on a restaurant nearby, and the colorful walkway here is currently being covered to prevent damage as work above it is ongoing. Now staying in Celestial Park, let's jump over and check out the fountain that has now been painted blue, and there is a protected pathway to the center, which does indicate these are the final colors of the basin that are being painted now. And next to the fountain, we can see the kids' play fountain slash splash pad area that is called Astronomica, which is described as where you can play with dancing fountains. And over at Constellation Carousel, there is a large crane lifting heavy items near the dome, and it seems that work on the carousel part of the attraction could be starting very soon as there's lots of activity going on in this area. We also learned from Universal's announcement this week that Constellation Carousel is not your typical carousel, as it has a rotating floor unlike most other carousels we've seen, and the theming is going to be amazing. Now a unique aspect of this attraction is that each carriage turns 360 degrees while lifting riders up to 6 feet in the air. Celestial music and color will dazzle your senses as you whirl and twirl together across the Milky Way. We also know that this waterfront restaurant that has been covered in scrims for months, and there really hasn't been much progress to note for a bit, but we do know that this restaurant is going to be called Atlantic. And the description of this restaurant is: across the shimmering waters of the Neptune Pool in Celestial Park, Atlantic is an undersea culinary fantasy. Inside glass walls reminiscent of an enormous Victorian aquarium, starfish dwell peacefully with serene, illuminated fish swimming above you. Indulge in exceptional seafood and steaks, or enjoy a cocktail at the lively Aquaria bar. And staying in Celestial Park, we can see there is some major progress over here at the in-park hotel that we also found out is going to be named Helios Grand Hotel. And here we can see some staging for elements of the dome that will adorn the top of the Helios Hotel. And this is the current progress on the dome on the top of the hotel. With the latest concept art, we can compare it to the current progress of Helios and see that it is really starting to take shape nicely. And here we can see the progress on the Helios pool and bar areas, with concrete forms for the pool being currently set up. Now, to get a glimpse of what the Helios pool area will look like, we can take a peek at some concept art that was leaked about Helios. Now, this wasn't released by Universal, but by someone on Reddit. So I can't say with 100% accuracy that this is what this area will look like. It does make sense with the concept art that Universal released, so this could give us a good idea of what the guest side arrival of the hotel will look like. Now, there were some other things that were leaked out about the Helios Grand Hotel that we will go over in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. And the last part of Celestial Park is the main entrance portal into Epic Universe, which is going to be referred to as the Kronos. Now, this shot is a perfect view to compare it to the concept art that was just released this week, and we can see just how epic this is going to look.
Where do you get off?
Now, what's interesting when looking at the previous concept art is that the entrance portal to the park seems to have been tweaked a bit, because it definitely doesn't look like this in the previous ones, as it looks much more like over at Universal Studios Orlando and the entrance they have over there. But personally, the concept art that was just released about the entrance portal to the entire park, I think it looks fantastic, and I think it's a great tone for people coming into the park. And in this view, we can see the entire entrance portal is coming together and taking shape nicely. Well, that is going to do it for this Epic Universe construction update. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel before you go, as we will be doing more Epic Universe construction updates, news updates, land previews, and more as work on this park continues. And also here at Capture the Magic, we have informational videos to help you have the best time when heading to Universal Studios and or Disney World. And if you want even more Universal Studios and Disney World information, you can check out the Capture the Magic podcast, where we share tips, reviews, money-saving strategies, and much more. You can find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and also here on YouTube over at CTM Podcast. So Universal said this week that Epic Universe is opening in 2025. So what are your best guesses as to when the park will open? Spring, summer, fall? Let us know in the comments. And until next time, we will see you in the parks.